Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Today you'll be learning how to split your screen in at least two ways, and we'll be analyzing a poem so that you know how to do this when this is an independent assignment for you. We also will be annotating the poem that we are analyzing. So those three things, analyzing, annotating, splitting our screen for ease of getting our projects done, are the three things we'll be learning today. So if you notice from my screen, uh, I'm in Google Classroom. I received an assignment and I need to read the poem, which I've pulled up in Google Docs. While that's loading, I'm going to shrink the screen. Now it went down smaller, and say you wanted to look at the instructions and look at the poem at the same time. Now that this is shrunk, you want to take the tab, make sure you're in the gray area, not Xing it out, which will be closing it. You want to take the top, you want to pull it over. If you don't get it perfectly over, that's fine. At this point, you can now, as I'm doing, resize your two screens. You don't want the screens touching because as you're opening one to view it, the other one will close. So then you can look back at Google Classroom for the instructions and look at the poem. Also, if you have something that's open up in a different application, you also will be able to do that. So now I'm going to move this back over here, and I'm going to open up some poetic terms. These poetic terms will be on a poetic term test when we finish with some of the poems. So I'm in the lesson of the moth. You've received a copy from me to annotate. I'm expanding my menu, which I have previously shrunken, so that I can change the name of the poem. I'm actually going to make a copy and work on the copy today so that when I send you your version of the poem, it will not have my notes on it. Now that the copy is opening up, let's look over here at this side. If you notice, the percentage is at 130, so we can't see everything that we may want to read. So I'm going to zoom out to about 70%, 80% might work. And I can read the poetic terms. And now here's my copy of the poem coming up. So let's read over here. Poems are written in lines which can vary in length. Well, when we look at this poem, how many lines does this poem have? It's simple addition, just literally counting the lines. Then you would add a comment in your annotated copy to state how many lines are on in this poem. Lines are grouped together in stanzas, okay? These sections of a poem are separated by a space. They may appear to you as paragraphs appear in a written text, but they are not paragraphs. They are called stanzas, and they are segments of the poem that the author felt needed separation. Okay? A ballad is a type of narrative poem that tells a story. Is this a narrative poem? Okay, can this be sung? Does it have a setting, a plot, and characters? If it does, you need to explain that and show evidence in your annotations. Does it have free verse? I'm going to skip down. If it has free verse, you want to identify how you found it had free verse. It may have rhyme. If it has rhyme, you want to put the rhyme scheme in. Okay, and again, you want to add a comment to put that information in. Is there alliteration, the repetition of consonant sounds? In 7th grade, we learned Sylvia Stout would not take the garbage out. That poem is in the title and in the poem, there is alliteration several times throughout that poem by Shel Silverstein. Imagery. Which pieces of this poem contain phrases or words that appeal to the 5 senses? Taste, touch, sight, hearing. Those are the pieces that you're supposed to know. Are there any similes, comparison of 2 things, using like or as? Is or are there metaphors in this particular poem? So I'm going to go scroll up to the top and look at this poem to start annotating it. The Lesson of the Moth by Don Marquis. I was talking to a moth the other evening. He was trying to break into an electric bulb and fry himself on the wires. Okay, I'm looking at this statement and my first reaction is, why is he trying to fry himself? I also noticed that there's no punctuation. So part of the form is no punctuation or capitalization. So I'm going to make a note of that after correcting my misspellings. And add that as a comment. These comments will eventually add up, hopefully, to the amount that you've been assigned as the minimum. The minimum is just a guide for you to thoroughly analyze the poem. If you find that you cannot reach the minimum, you should try to go back through the poem and continue to see if there are further insight. Are there other things going on that you can tell what's happening in the poem? Tomorrow, when we come in for class, we will practice on a short poem and see how far we get with analyzing our poem. Hopefully, you've learned how to split your screen to use it to help you to annotate with the resource. You also learned how to annotate, okay, and analyze the poem using the resource of the poetic terms. Thank you. Bye-bye.